मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
Good morning to each and every one of you. And today our topic is Ind AS 103 business combination. Today we are having with us our on Gopala Krishna Raju sir, CMA Gopala Krishna Raju sir, and our chief guest CMA R Tyagarajan sir. So with the introduction of CMA R Tyagarajan sir, we will start this event, sir. I will introduce CMA R Tyagarajan sir. CMA R Tyagarajan sir is a chartered accountant and a management accountant over 22 years of professional experience across the multiple industries and worked across entire gamut of finance, handled fundraising, investor relations, ERP implementation, Ind AS transition, corporate governance, and finance control. And we are very much thankful to CMA R Tyagarajan sir for being with us, and we hope that they have accepted our invitation and our participant will be helpful and gain knowledge from his deliberations. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for coming to this program. Now over to Tyagarajan sir for their deliberations, sir. Please unmute and speak, sir. Now you are live. You can speak, sir.
Thank you, Ji. Respected President Dr. Ashish Thatte, Padmanabhan Ji, GKR Ji, fellow professionals and friends. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of this session on Ind AS 103. As we all know, the Indian accounting profession has always taken a major lead in providing thought leadership and proactively recognize the importance of staying ahead of the technological evolution, right? If you look back at the history of our accounting, starting from the days of accounting in the EDP environment to today's accounting in blockchain and the cloud environment, finance professionals have been catalysts, have led this from the forefront, managed the change very easily and honestly, and driven this very passionately, right? So today the current challenges present us a perfect opportunity for companies to reinvent and reinvest in their business models. The way forward is M&A. We all know companies can advance their digital priorities through M&A by bringing in the right technologies, right expertise to the clients at the right price, right? Fittingly, today we have chosen AS 103 on business combinations for the discussion today. And I'm happy to conclude my opening remarks by reminding us all of Charles Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. If you recall, in the end, stronger companies will emerge, will survive, the weaker ones will cease to exist. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me hand it over to GKR for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to GKR, sir, for the rest of the session. We know all very well GKR, sir, is with us for a long time and he's deliberating on Indian accounting standards. Thank you, GKR, sir. Now I'll make you live, sir. Please take the session, sir.
Yeah. Very good afternoon to one and all, and at the outset, let me thank the Institute of Cost Accountants of India for organizing a continuously program on Indian accounting standards. And every week, especially from last month onwards, we are having a session on Sunday, especially 12 to 1:30, with special guest from corporate. And every week we are witnessing CFOs from listed companies. And today we are very fortunate to have amongst us cost and management accountant, Mr. R. Tyagarajan. He is also an eminent chartered accountant with more than 2 decades of experience. So on behalf of myself and on behalf of Institute of Cost Accountants of India, I extend a warm welcome, as well as I must thank Mr. Tyagarajan for accepting to be part of this particular program as a special guest and to share his insights. This session on Ind AS 103 business combinations, as very rightly identified, and a lead has been given by Mr. Tyagarajan, that this COVID-19, post-COVID-19, for economy to actually strengthen and the corporates to also come forward, to take a step forward and to face the challenges which the economic lull or the slowdown is there. And the COVID-19 is actually, I can say that as a button, a fast forward button. There are organizations which will slow down and die in over 5 years, which within 6 months they have closed down. Vice versa, there are organizations which will take at least 5 years to pick up. They have now, they were able to see the surge, not a linear growth, but a vertical growth in 6 months' time. So that is what this COVID-19 as a fast forward button has happened, and it's actually a maybe miracle of God, and maybe a message from Almighty that business restructuring is the key. And whenever we speak about restructuring, it is takeovers and mergers, amalgamations. So there are various names that has been given. And very interestingly, you can see some of the latest mergers that has taken place in financial year 2019-20. And I will be referring to 2 such mergers. One is Hindustan Unilever Limited. They have taken over SmithKline Beecham, the brands which is the most popular brand of SmithKline Beecham, which is Horlicks and Boost, has been taken over by Hindustan Unilever. And I'll be referring one more example, and I'll be showing you 2 annual reports, maybe snapshots. The second annual report which I'll be referring to is Ultratech Cement Limited. Ultratech Cement Limited, they have actually done 2 kinds of restructuring. One, there was a company called CTIL. So I'll give the expansion. This is also in a cement business. They went for a demerger, and one of the unit was actually acquired by Ultratech Cement. And not only that, they have also acquired Binani Cement Limited under Insolvency Bankruptcy Code as a brownfield investment. Now, brownfield investment is something very interesting term, meaning you want to launch a new product rather than going for a greenfield project, right? What you call it as a right from inception you started. Already there is a company which is running. You take that and launch your product in that. So that is called a brownfield investment. And Binani Cement Limited acquisition has paved a way for Ultratech to go in that direction. And I'll take these 2 examples and try to actually share my thoughts and also connect with the Ind AS 103. And before I go into this, I want to share with you that this entire standard is only this much. It is 63 paras. It has actually 4 appendix, and all the 4 appendix forms part of the standard. They call it as integral part of the standard. So all the 4. And you have 14 definitions. Some of these definitions I will be referring now and then. And apart from this, you have 67 paras. The original standard is only 63 paras, but you have 67 paras, which is B5 to B67. You may actually wonder what happened to B1 to B4. B1 to B4 is actually deleted because to keep the track with IFRS 3 in comparison to IFRS 3, the para numbers. So your Ind AS and IFRS will look exactly same, except where there is no cogency, those paras will be deleted. Similarly, what is not there in IFRS 3, it is there in Ind AS 103. That also I try to put forth before you. This is one such standard where practically and also theoretically explaining the paragraph will definitely take quite a long time. But being a very, very elite and learned audience, I will ensure that I'll only present before you the significant paras and also connecting the dots with the practical illustration through Hindustan Unilever Limited and Ultratech Cement Limited. And there is one more I will be referring to, especially the comparison between IFRS 3 and Ind AS 103. Now I want to make one more observation. Before Ind AS 103, we had the erstwhile, and even today it is there, it is AS 14, the accounting standard 14, which is accounting for amalgamations. So there is quite a lot of, I will say, maturity with respect to Ind AS 103, because there it was only the concept of control was not kept at maximum, but in Ind AS 103, the priority, the focal point is actually the term called control. Maybe I will not take much of your time, I'll directly jump into the main topic. So now the first thing what I want to share with all of you is, I'll take you to the purpose of Ind AS 103. Why? Number one, I'll say this is point number one. The point number one with respect to Ind AS 103 is, I'll directly take you to the objective of this para, objective of this standard, especially para 1. Especially para 1. And if you read this particular para, I want you to refer these three words. What is it? RRC. RRC. What is it? Relevance, reliability, and comparability. So comparability is the foundation for Ind AS, because you need to compare with not only with your company, with your peers and with your global standard presentation. So that is also there. Relevance and reliability. Now, what do you mean by this? See, today there are maybe the next standard which we need to actually maybe read and try to decipher is Ind AS 110, which is called consolidation of financial statements. That is the next step to this. But here, the relevance is with respect to when we take over a particular company, should we have to incorporate their assets and liabilities at what value? At what value? Now, we have actually come a long way, especially from the historical cost to the fair value accounting now. So, the current cost accounting, the current cost is as on the date of your acquisition. As on the date of your acquisition, what is the relevant value of that assets and liabilities which you are assuming? That only should be what do you call this, recognized in the financial statement. So the relevance, reliability, and please understand there is something very interesting I want to share with you, that net assets 100 is asset, 20 is liability. So net asset is 80 fair value. But will you pay the consideration as 80? Not necessary. That is actually over the table. There will be Jagada and Jamela, and people will say, no, I don't want 80. I will only pay 60. Some will say you have to pay 150. So that is the purchasing power. That is totally different. That is totally different. So fair values were accounting purpose. The consideration, purchase consideration is what has been settled for or paid to the respective maybe the sellers or the shareholders. Both these are two independent transaction or two independent aspects. So which has been very nicely. So that is why the term called relevance and reliability. What is the purpose of this reliability? Point is, you have innumerable kind of aspects which you will come across. For example, what do you do with goodwill? Will you amortize it? That is India. That is AS 14 concept. So AS 14, whatever a goodwill is there, you have to amortize it. But here it is not so. They say once it is a goodwill in terms of acquisition, you need to actually, it is only treated as indefinite, and you will not amortize it. You will not touch it. You have to only keep it as it. There are certain aspect where you can actually merge along with. So it will be assumed as part of your asset. So let me actually take you through examples. So that is called as reliability part. Not only with respect to that, extreme circumstances, I repeat, extreme circumstances, there will be possibility where fair value is 80, but you pay only 50. Fair value is 80, but you pay only 50. That means what is 30? This 30, in IFRS 3, they say you have to treat it as a profit and charge off, and you have to show it as an income in your P&L account. But India's 103 differs. And I'll say this is the right approach. The right approach because it's a capital acquisition. You cannot show that as that year's income. So, or a period of, because you have future economic benefits. So you have to capitalize it. You have to take it to other comprehensive income. So, or you show it as a capital reserve. So, what are those circumstances? So, the reliability, RRC is the first point I want to share with all of you. The second point what I want to discuss with all of you is the acquisition date. Now, this is a very interesting term, guys. And I'll first start with the definition of acquisition date. And this definition of acquisition date is given in your Appendix A. Your Appendix A, after your para number 63, you have this Appendix A defined term. In that, the third definition is your acquisition date. The first is the acquiree, the seller, acquirer, the entity that obtains control. Very, I will say the shortest, smallest, cutest definition. Shortest, smallest, cutest entity that obtains control. Matter over. Control is the fulcrum, and the word control I need actually minimum 60 minutes to explain, because the word control is also being defined here, and I should take not only to this, but I'll also should take you to Ind AS 110 for the definition of control. So I will not dilute my discussion other than the business combination fundamental, but the acquisition date, the date on which the acquirer obtains control. Now here I'm going to zoom it. So this is point number 2, acquisition date. But what is the word used in the Companies Act 2013? The Companies Act 2013, section 232, subsection 6. I repeat, section 232, subsection 6 speaks about a similar word, which is what do you call it as an acquisition date. But there they don't use a term called acquisition date. For your kind information, the term that is used there is different, and that is called appointed date. And there is a very important MCA General Circular number 09/2019, dated 21st August 2019, which very clearly mentions that this is in point number 2 in that particular circular, which says that the appointed date identified under the scheme. Okay, so this appointed date is the term used in 232 subsection 6 of the Companies Act, identified under the scheme of amalgamation, merger, demerger, ityadi, all those things, shall also be deemed. Please look at this word. This is from the MCA General Circular. Deemed to be the acquisition date and date of transfer of control for the purpose of conforming to accounting standards. Good. So this is the connect between Companies Act and Ind AS. This circular is the connect between the Companies Act and the Ind AS. So therefore, the appointed date and acquisition date both are same. Appointed date under the Companies Act. Acquisition date is deemed to be the appointed date, or the appointed date shall be deemed to be the acquisition date for the purpose of transfer of control. Just now we saw what it is. So this is my second point. Now I'm coming to the third point. To give you a understanding with respect to appointed date, I'll just share with you two examples. Just two examples very quickly, and after that I'll jump to the example of Hindustan Unilever and Ultratech Cement Limited. You know what is the slogan of Hindustan Unilever? Purpose-led, future fit. They have a very nice slogan. Purpose-led company. Okay, that entity, there's a company said purpose-led and future fit. So very interesting slogan. And you know what is the slogan of Ultratech Cement Limited? And especially their annual report, the top page, if you look at it, there will be one hourglass. Okay, there will be one hourglass. On top of it, COVID-19 viruses will be going inside. And they say tough times don't last. Tough times don't last. And bottom of that, the time hourglass, but tough companies do. Ultratech Cement Limited. Okay, so very interesting, and I think that company is going very strong. It is Aditya Vikram Birla Group, and they have nicely strategized, especially 1920. And I will leave for some of the pointers for Mr. Tyagarajan also, because 2021, there has been an innumerable number of deals, innumerable number of acquisitions that has happened, happening, and going to happen also. And the only way in which Indian corporates can survive, can sustain, is only by business combinations, only by business strengthening. The word 103 itself has that meaning. What is 103? Equals will not actually merge. I repeat, equals will never merge. Who will merge? 1 and 0. 1 is actually a big number, 0 is a small number. So 1 will actually acquire 0. But what generally we will think is, in a marriage, when 1 and 1 they marry together, 1 plus 1 is 2. No. The parents and elders, grandparents will say, no, it is not 1 plus 1 is 2. It is 1 plus 1 is 3, because there will be children also. So that is called synergy. So 103. So 1 will acquire 0, and the synergy benefit is what the ultimate. That is why it is 3, 103. So A Limited acquired 80% equity interest in B Limited for cash consideration. I'll give you some 5 dates. You have to tell me which is what you call it as the acquisition date. The acquisition date, otherwise deemed to be the appointed date and deemed to be the acquisition date. Please look at it. Shareholders agreement is on 1st June. The appointed date as per the shareholder agreement is 1st April. Okay, appointed date. So they decide one date. But just because they decide a date, will that become? Okay, that is a question. Date of obtaining control over the board, 1st July. See, appointed date is 1st April. But control is only obtained on 1st July. Consideration is given 15 days later. Share is transferred another 15 days later. Now, which is relevant date? What is called as your acquisition date? Okay, because fair value will be only based on that. So that is my next third point. I'm going for that. In this case, even though the appointed date is 1st April, control is over the board is only on 1st July. So therefore, 1st July only will be treated as the acquisition date. That is deemed to be the acquisition date. The appointed date under the Companies Act and deemed to be the acquisition date under the Ind AS 103. Now I'll take one more example, and then I'll directly jump to because I want to actually generally standards I will share with lot of examples for discussion. But today I want to hear and wish members also hear from Mr. Tyagarajan also. Good. Now please look at this illustration. On 1st April, X Limited agrees to acquire the share of B Limited in an all equity deal. Okay, in an all equity, because this is where I want to make one observation. If you go to Companies Act, because 103 will only speak about 3 things: measurement, recognition, and maybe disclosure. Only these three. They will never speak about what you call it as the compliance part of it, the compliance. So 103 alone, reading 103 alone may not give us the complete picture. We need to actually know the other side. For example, business acquisition you can make either by cash purchase of shares or by equity, or you can even give equity and take it. So this is an all equity deal. The moment is an equity deal, you need shareholders approval. If it is cash deal, I repeat, if it is a cash deal, that means you are surplus cash. So it's actually purchase of shares. It's like an investment. And after that, it depends upon the business you are acquiring or assets you are acquiring. I'll come to that particular point after this. On 1st April, X Limited agrees to acquire the shares of D Limited in an all equity deal. As per the binding agreement, X will get the effective control on 1st April. Khatam ho gaya. That is the moment that the definition of the acquirer is the day the acquirer is the entity which will take control of the acquiree. So that is the definition of the acquirer as per your appendix A. Your appendix A, which is the smallest and cutest definition, acquirer definition. So however, the consideration will be paid later. This is practical. So the appointed date and the acquisition date will be one day. Consideration will be paid either before or after also, generally later. Sometimes the consideration will be cash, sometimes it will be equity or combination also. Shareholders meeting is happening on 30th April. If the shareholders approval is not received for issue of shares, please look at this. This is very interesting. That is why India is 103 alone is not the knowledge that is required. We need to also know the Companies Act provisions also. If the shareholders approval is not received, then the consideration will be settled in cash. Okay, right? We have with the business first always. For company, what is first? Shareholders also is important. But sometimes shareholders will be very, what do you call it? As no, why should we dilute our stake? Why should we dilute our stake? So when that is it is not that they don't want to expand. It is otherwise. So people will have apprehension with respect to dilution. And the only way is pay cash and acquire. So what is the acquisition date? It is 1st April. So just for giving you a starting point on the acquisition date. Now let me take you to the third point. Now I want you to read this note number 40. Note number 40, business combination of Hindustan Unilever Limited. And there are actually, they have acquired Indulekha brand in 2016, and that is financial year 16-17, and Aditya milk brand. And what is the fair value? 157 crores. And what is the consideration they have paid? 330 crores. So naturally goodwill is there. Okay. So the fair value of contingent consideration. I'll come to that particular point a little later. Okay. So what is called as contingent consideration? What is total consideration? I'll come to that. So 16-17 they acquired Indulekha. 18-19 they acquired Aditya Milk. And what do you call it as 3rd December? And during the year, okay, 1920. Okay, during the year 1920, so they acquired GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare Limited. So I want you to please focus on these two paragraphs. On 3rd December 2018, the Board of Directors of HUL, subject to obtaining requisite approval from the statutory authorities and shareholders, had approved a scheme of amalgamation between Hindustan Unilever and GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare. The scheme envisaged amalgamation of GSK CH with the company and the dissolution without winding up of the GSK CH pursuant thereto. Both the company have received all necessary approvals in accordance with the terms of the scheme. 1st April 2020 will be both the appointed date and effective date. Appointed date, 1st April 2020. Accordingly, all assets and liabilities have become assets and liabilities with effect from 1st April 2020 for your information. So 2021. So on 21st April, the company had allotted. So during the year. Now I want to make one more observation. They have mentioned this that in para number 59A and B, I want you to read para number 59A and B. This is with respect to disclosure. That is why I am reading that particular para. Please look at 59A and B. What is 59A? What is 59B? 59 is disclosure. This is 59. 59A. The acquirer shall disclose information. Who is acquirer? Hindustan Unilever Limited. Shall disclose information that enables users of its financial statement, shareholders, to evaluate the nature and the financial effect of the business combination that occurs when? During the current reporting period, 1920, or after the end of the reporting period, that is after 31st March 2020, but before the financial statements are approved for issue. So before the financial statements are approved for issue, that means before the audited financial statements were approved by the board, this has happened. What has happened? The acquisition has happened. So that is why they have disclosed that particular paragraph. So you will actually wonder, this didn't take place. The appointed date is only on 1st of April. Why they actually disclose? It is only because of para number 59. I repeat, because of para number 59B. Because of para number 59B, on 21st April, the company allotted. So 1st April is the appointed date. Okay, and 21st April, consideration given. 18 crores, 46 lakhs, 23,812 shares, 1 rupee each, who are holding shares. And company is in the process of ascertaining the fair value and will be accounted with effect from 1st April 2020 next year. And please look at this. This is your 1819, this is your 1617. And not only that, look at V-Wash brand. V-Wash is actually a health product, with this a women health product. So on 23rd March 2020, the company signed an agreement with the Glenmark Pharmaceutical to acquire their product, okay, and their company. So deal includes acquisition of IPR, trademark, design, everything, and the transaction is subject to fulfillment of certain conditions. So that is also they have disclosed. So company has signed an agreement. So far it is only in the agreement stage. So that is also they are disclosing. So this is given in para number 61. So the acquirer shall disclose information that enable users to evaluate the financial effects of adjustment recognized. So that is given in 60 and 61. So that is the first, the third point I want to start with. Now, let me take you to note number 37. This is from Ultratech Cement Limited. I repeat, from Ultratech Cement Limited. From here, I am going to take you to various paragraphs. So note number 37, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So all these I am going to discuss and I will take you to the respective paras, especially with respect to what is called as non-controlling interest, contingent liabilities, what do you deal with contingent consideration, how you will actually present that in your financial statements, what are the paragraphs that is applicable. Good. Now let me take you one by one. Okay, let me take you one by one. Good. Now please look at this, the scheme of demerger with the CTIL. I said CTIL is Century Textiles and Industries Limited. Okay, that is was made effective from 1st October 2019. So National Company Law Tribunal has approved the scheme, order dated 3rd July. So remember, so 3rd July is a NCLT order. The appointed date, and they fixed 20th May as the appointed date. Remember guys. So NCLT has order dated is 3rd July, but before 3rd July, 20th May is the appointed date. So appointed date is your acquisition date. I repeat, appointed date is your acquisition date. Consequently, the company has included the financial result or information of the demerged undertaking in its standalone financial statement with effect from 20th May. Now you will actually have a question mark here. What is it? Now this particular company, they will be actually running a company, and how will you actually merge it? They will have a turnover for 18-19. I repeat, for the year 18-19 they'll have a turnover. 19-20 also they'll have a turnover. How they will include that in their financial statement. So I'll try to explain that with the point numbers H and I. I'll explain that. Okay. So this paragraph is very, very critical for you to actually appreciate how the turnover profit will be recognized in the entity, that is in the acquirer company. Good. Now let me take you to the consequently the figure for the year ended 31st March 19 have been restated to the impact of the scheme of demerger. Now coming to the very important point. Now, this is fair value. Now, the entire, I am going to take you to para number 3, identifying. So, let me take you to para number 3 and then I'll come here. What is para number 3, guys? Para number 3 says, entity shall determine whether a transaction or other event is a business combination by applying the definition in this Ind AS. Now, let me make this point very clear. Now, here they have defined in Appendix A what is meant by a business, what is meant by a business combination, and for this year, I mean 24th July 2020, 24th July 2020, an amendment, a notification has been brought out by MCA. The notification number is 463E, dated 24th July 2020. So, in this particular date, they have amended Ind AS 103 in 2 places. What is that? They have changed the definition of business by including one more word. So, before 24th July 2020, what was the definition? And what is the definition, the change which they have brought in 24th July 2020? So, I'll show you the definition part. This is business definition. This is substituted Y notification number 463 dated 24th July 2020. So, what is it, guys? An integrated set of activities and assets that is capable of being conducted and managed for the purpose of providing goods or services to customer. This word was not there in the previous definition. What was there? Generating income, dividend, interest, generating other income from ordinary activity. This was only there. What was not there? Goods or services, providing goods or services to customer, word was missing. So, this is a very, very important turn. Why I am mentioning this particular point is, when you are not taking over the business, and the business they are actually defining with some more of explanation. There should be input, process, output, and you should have the intention of continuing the business. They are giving so many things. So, I will not spend my time on that particular aspect, but I want to actually discuss a lot. Maybe another 1 to 2 hours we need to actually discuss only on what is business and what is not business. For example, I am only interested to take over a company where the company is not running company, but they have only land and building. In that balance sheet, only land and building is there. And I do some valuation, all this stuff and consideration, everything, and I acquire that particular company. Now, integrated set of activity, there is no activity. Is that the purpose for providing goods and services to customer? That is not there. Generating investment income such as dividend or interest, then it becomes an investment company. Or generating other income from ordinary activity. You are not doing anything. You are only taking over a company where the only asset is land and building. So therefore, this business definition is very, very critical. If you are taking over a particular business, then only I will go for the concept called business combination. Else what will happen? Para 3 makes it very clear. If you are not taking over a business, it means you are only acquiring an asset. And if you are acquiring an asset, please look at this. If the assets acquired are not a business, you will not recognize under 103. You will only recognize as per your PPE 16, property, plant and equipment 16. So it is only an asset acquisition, not a business acquisition. So this is para number 4 for your kind information. Good. I mean the 4th point which I thought of sharing with you. Good. Now the next point what I want to share with you is, please come here. Good. Now fair value. Now once you are taking over a business, that is what they will explain here in para B. Please look at para B. Why I didn't read para B is they are explaining that I am not taking over assets, I am taking over business only. And that has to be disclosed, very clearly. the assets of the demerged company comprising of 3 integrated units of total capacity of 12.6 metric ton per annum and 1 grinding unit with a grinding capacity of 2 metric ton per annum has an enterprise value of 8,387.71 crores. The acquisition of the demerged company continues to support the company to strengthen its presence in eastern and central market and extend its footprints in western and southern markets. This also provides synergy in manufacture, distribution process, logistic alignment, leading to economies of scale. This paragraph will explain that you are doing business with respect to that acquisition. So it is not asset acquisition, it is business acquisition. So that is where the connect is important, and you need to disclose this as per your para number B67. B67 of your application guidance makes it clear the acquirer shall disclose the following information for each material business combination. So A, B. So now come to C. Now I am taking you C. For C, I will take you to a very, very important paragraph. And what is that paragraph, guys? So let me take you to para number 10. So let me take you to para number 10. No acquisition date. Now, acquisition date I have just discussed already. The acquirer shall identify the acquisition date over Katam, which is the date in which it acquires the control of the acquiring. Good. Now, come to 10. As on the acquisition date, the acquirer shall recognize separately from goodwill the identifiable assets acquired and liability assumed and any non-controlling interest in acquiring. This portion alone I will discuss separately. What is called non-controlling interest? Maybe if I am taking over the entire 100% stakes, NCI will not be there. If I am only taking over 72%, I am only taking over 80%, I am only taking over 90%. What will happen to the 90% take over? What will happen to 10%? 10% what will happen? Will I leave it? Because when you have to consolidate, you need to show very clearly, and maybe in your olden accounting chapter in holding companies and all, there will be a term called minority interest. I repeat, there will be a term called minority interest, and that minority interest only has taken a new avatar, a new Lord Vishnu avatar in India's avatar called as non-controlling interest. The non-controlling interest is the minority interest avatar. So the old minority interest, the new avatar of minority interest is non-controlling interest. So how do you measure this? So the recognition part. So I will take you to para number 18, which is very, very important para. After para number 18, I will take you to the Ultratech Cement as well as Hindustan Unilever, the balance sheet. Now look at 18, very important para. Acquirer shall measure. It is not the acquiree, the buyer, the acquirer shall measure the identifiable assets acquired and liabilities assumed at their acquisition date, and your acquisition date is your appointed date, fair value. Now, this is it is given in bold color. Now come to this disclosure given by Ultratech Cement, note number 37C. Please look at note 37C. As per India's 103 business combination, okay, purchase consideration. Now that paragraph purchase consideration, I'll come to that part because I told you the fair value of your assets and liabilities and fair value of purchase consideration are two independent inputs. Now, as per your para number 18 is where it is. The fair value identified assets acquired and liabilities assumed as on the acquisition date, which is given in the bold color in the middle. After that, you have the table. So what is it? PPE, capital work, everything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Total is 9,291.74. I repeat, 9,291.74 crores. This is your fair value of your total assets. Now, fair value of your total liability, 6,112.85 crores. Wow. So what is your net fair value? So this is what your Para 18 says, this para 18 is given here in bold color. The fair value identified assets acquired, liability assumed on the date is, net of that is 3,178.89. Wow. Good. That much crore. Now please come to the above paragraph. Now above paragraph. So the purchase consideration. So as per Ind AS 103, purchase consideration has been allocated on the basis of fair value determined by an independent valuer. So this has been, this 3,178 has been determined by an independent valuer. Cost related to acquisition. Now I will come to that. That is acquisition related cost is para 53. I will come to that a little later, not now. After explaining this one paragraph, I will go to that para 53. So that para 53 is my next point, which is my fifth point. Okay, good. Now please look at the second paragraph. Against the total enterprise value of 8387.71. This is a valuation done independently. So enterprise valuation is different and the identifiable asset fair value is different. Let us be very clear about it. Okay, because that is for the purchase consideration. The company has taken over borrowings of 3,000 crores from CTIL. So after taking into these account, effective purchase consideration, they arrived at 5,387.71. So guys, this is the purchase consideration. 5,387.71 crores. Very interesting, guys. 5,387.71 has been discharged on 16th October 2019. But actually, your effective date is 1st October. Okay, effective date is appointed date is 20th May 2018 and the consideration discharged on 16th October 2019. So during their 1920 only it has happened. Okay, good. Now come to this next point. So out of your 5,387.71 crores, you have the fair value of the net asset acquired. This table D is very important, guys. Look at table D. What is fair value of your consideration? 5,387.71. What is the fair value of your net asset acquired? 3,178.89. So therefore, a 3,000 worth of assets, I am purchasing at 5,000 and so the difference is goodwill. Now what I will do with goodwill? Goodwill is attributed to synergy in cement prices and in cost. That is the purpose, and because I am going to my future economic benefits is there because of my acquisition. So that is why I am paying this 2,000 crores extra. Okay, so now let me take you to the next paragraph. Okay, so what is the next paragraph? Please look at this paragraph. Cost related to acquisition. Please look at this in C first para. Cost related to acquisition. Now this net of this 5,387.71 minus 3,178. You have a goodwill. Now you are allotting 5,387.71 crores. How? By issuing. Please, by issue of 1 equity shares of 10, 8 equity shares of CTIL, each to shareholders. The fair value has been determined based on this closing price prior to appointed. Now this allotment when you make, there are a lot of costs involved. Now what is that cost? 53. How will you recognize that 53? So let us take you to para number 53. After 53, I will come to the exceptions to some principles. Okay, that is our sixth para point. So anyhow, I am at 12:51 now. So another 10 to 15 minutes I will take, and after that I will leave the floor open for Mr. Tyagarajan. Okay. Now please look at 53. 53 is actually acquisition related cost. That is the second para which I mentioned. What is acquisition related cost? Acquisition related cost is business combination. When you make there will be a lot of expenses. What are those expenses? Valuation. So valuation you will be paying 50 lakhs or 1 crore you will be paying that valuation. So advisory, legal, accounting, professional, consulting fees, general administrative costs. So you need to have one separate account code under that multiple ledger accounts. Book everything in that. And will you capitalize it? What will you do? And if you capitalize it, how much you will amortize? All this stuff is there. So they have given very, very clear prescription. Please look at this. The acquirer shall account for acquisition related cost as expenses. Damal. Boom. So go in the entire thing. Charge to P&L account 53 in the period in which the costs are incurred. and the services are received with one exception. The one exception is the cost issued, especially the cost to issue of debt or equity security shall be recognized as per 32 and 109, especially if it is a financial instrument related prescription given in 32 and 109. Other than that, all these costs, so including finder fees, advisory, legal, accounting, valuation, professional, consulting, general administrative, any exclusive due diligence expenses. So all this stuff you can actually, general administration cost related to the, you can have a separate secretariat for meeting, eating, that, this, travel, stay, ityadi, everything. All those will be general administration. Everything charged up to P&L. So this is para number 53. Good. Next I am taking you to the very, very important para, that is exceptions. Now, there are three exceptions I want to discuss, which is in para number 22 to 31. Three exceptions. The first exception I will take you to 22, that is contingent liability. So, this is exceptions to the recognition or measurement principle. I want to share with you these exceptions. There are actually, I will say there are three types of exceptions they have brought out. So, what is number one? Number one is with respect to contingent liability, and this is exception to recognition principle. What do you mean by recognition principle? I will not bring into books of accounts at all. Now, I am acquiring, for example, Hindustan Unilever is actually acquiring GlaxoSmithKline. Ultratech Cement is acquiring Binani Cement or the CTIL demerged company. There will be a contingent liability there. That contingent liability, what will you do? Will you assume it? What should you do with respect to your books of account? Will you measure it? Will you list it? Will you remeasure it? Will you value it? What do you do with that? Ind AS 37 speaks about how do you define a contingent liability. So I will not go to all this stuff. I will directly go to para 23 because this 22 is directly copy paste from Ind AS 37. I'll take you to 23. 23 gives the answer. And 23 is what is done by Hindustan Unilever and Ultratech also. Let me show you that. The requirement in Ind AS 37 do not apply in determining which contingent liability to recognize as an acquisition date. Wow, very interesting. Instead, what I should do? Okay, there are contingent liability. So when you are generally that is what will happen. So whenever marriage is taking place, the bride side they will actually do what do you call it as some private inquiry they will make. So how the boy is, I think they will make an inquiry. So sometimes they will know some of the information. Some information they will not know. So whether information they know or not, once marriage is done, we have to what do you call it as assume, accept. So instead the acquirer shall recognize as of the acquisition date a contingent liability assumed in a business combination if it is a present obligation that arises from past events and its fair value can be measured reliably. So please look at this. What is the word they say? The acquirer shall recognize as of the acquisition date a contingent liability assumed in a business combination if it is a present obligation that arises from past events and its fair value can be measured reliably. Else, what will you do? Therefore, contrary to that, acquirer recognizes a contingent liability assumed in a business combination at the acquisition date, even it is not probable that an outflow of resources embodying economic benefit will be required to settle the obligation. So, in the agreement, what do you call it as the scheme? In the scheme, it will be mentioned very clearly. From this date onwards, all assets belong to this company. All liability belong to that company. All contingent liability also belong to that company. So, it will be there in the scheme itself. So, now the moment they say contingent liability is applicable, will you measure it? Will you recognize it in books of accounts? Unless and otherwise, it is probable. Okay, the present obligation that arises and its fair value can be measured reliably. If you can measure reliably, recognize. Else, don't do it. Now, what is the para they have mentioned in Ultratech Cement and Hindustan Unilever? Please look at this, guys. Look at contingent liability. The company has assumed all the contingent liability of the demerged entity as per scheme. That is what I said. As per scheme. In the scheme it is mentioned. I have signed it. Total contingent liability transferred to the company. Transferred to them 806.64. So they would have listed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now they will also, in that there will be another legal para will be there. Apart from this, any other liability arises, what will happen? I will not take. So that is why they have made it very clear. So as per the scheme, what they have listed out, I am assuming. Company has assumed all the contingent liability as per the scheme. If anything is not there as per scheme, it will not be assumed. So please note down this, para number 23, and I will not recognize this in my books of accounts. I will only disclose. I will only disclose. Now there is a second exception. There is a second exception. So maybe I have another 10 more minutes. I will not take more than this. So there is a second exception. That second exception is both recognition and measurement. I repeat, both recognition and measurement. Exceptions to both recognition and I will not do that. What is that? And in that I want to share with you one latest change that has been brought out on 30th March 2019 because of para number 28A and 28.9. 28A and 28.9 is the latest change which they have brought inside. This is with respect to look at 24. This 24 onwards, you have exceptions to both recognition and measurement principle. There are actually 4 such exceptions: income taxes, employee benefits, and indemnification assets, and leases in which acquirer is the lessee. Now, please understand this. Now, I am acquirer, acquiring company. Before acquisition, acquiring has taken my asset, 10,000 square feet of property on lease. And as per India's 116, now you have the concept of right of use asset, ROU asset will be there, and lease liability will be there. Both will be there in their books of accounts. It is actually what you call a matching concept. It's not only lease liability you have to recognize, equivalent ROU asset also you have to recognize, which is a notional amount, notional asset, and you have to depreciate. So nowadays, now onwards, there is no difference between buying an asset or leasing an asset as per India. So both will look very same only in terms of treatment. Now here they say leases in which acquirer is the lessee. Now when you are actually taking over that acquiring company, so my own asset he has taken on lease. So what will you do? Will you actually recognize and measure that? No. When you will not recognize and measure, please look at this. The acquirer is not required to recognize ROU and lease when the lease for the lease term ends in 12 months time. It is short term or value is very low. The value is very low. These are the 2 exceptions. So this also I want to make an observation. And third observation is with respect to exceptions to measurement principle, not to recognition. I will not measure it. So, but I will go by the measurement which is already there in the books of accounts of the acquiring company. What is that? Reacquired rights. This is reacquired rights. So what is reacquired rights? So other than the lease, sometimes they would have taken the right with respect to some of the asset of my company. They would have taken a contractual right and they would have entered with the acquirer company. So when I am actually merging that company with acquirer company, so I am actually taking back that right. So then will I measure it? No. Share-based payment. For example, acquirees companies, they would have obligated to give share-based payments for employees who will serve 3-year term. 1 year is over, balance 2-year term is there. So once I take over, will I actually change the terms? I will not change the terms. So as per India's 102. Similar asset held for sale in the books of acquiring, that also I will not touch it. So these are all something which I will have an exceptions to measurement principle. Very, very, very interesting. Now coming to last but not the least, the contingent consideration. Okay, and after that I leave the floor open for Mr. Tyagarajan. So what is contingent consideration? Now please look at this. This is the contingent consideration, how it will be recorded. Now, look at this point number 1. Now this purchase consideration can be 2 parts. One is which I settle immediately. Second, contingent consideration. Now, what is contingent consideration? Contingent consideration is one which will be based on the future pattern. After acquisition, in case the company does well, it crosses the turnover of 100 crore, it crosses the turnover of 5,000 crore, 5,000 crore to 6,000 crore. On that, whatever PAT is there, on that 10% I will give it as consideration. So that means I must achieve that. If I don't achieve, what will happen? Now, please look at this very interesting disclosure of contingent consideration in Hindustan Unilever Limited. In Hindustan Unilever Limited, please look at this, guys. So, in financial liabilities, notes to financial statements, contingent consideration payable on business combination, 130 crores. So, they have mentioned that as 130. Now, out of this 130 crores, okay, this has to be measured at fair value. And they have measured this fair value in using level 3, not level 1 or level 2. Level 3 means by using an internal data given by the management and by doing the projected cash flows and all. Good. So 130 crores is the contingent consideration. Now, out of this 130, you have to give one more note. Please look at note number 19. Out of 130, please look at this. 93 crores plus 37 crores. What is 93 plus 37? 130 crores. 93 is non-current contingent consideration which is payable after 12 months. 37 crores is contingent consideration payable immediate 12 months, which is current. So I will measure it and show it under financial liability as 130 crore. And I will also classify that, and all these have been given in B67. So para B67. So every time I don't want to take you to the respective, the time is very short now. So please understand contingent consideration. I will take only one paragraph. Only one para I will take. The para number is actually 58. The para number 58 I will take so that you have a fair idea about this. Para 58 A and B. Let us be very clear about it. So the moment you are actually going to, you have decided that you will actually pay equity. Please look at contingent consideration. Okay, 58. In that A, contingent consideration classified as equity shall not be remeasured, and a subsequent settlement shall be accounted for within equity. But if it is not classified as equity, if it is measured as financial liability, you have to measure it, remeasure it every year, and it can either go up or come down. If it goes up, you have to actually debit to P&L account. If it comes down, credit to your P&L account. So, point to be noted, that particular liability, if you are settling part of it in current year within 12 months, show it as current liability, and if it is above 12 months, show it as a non-current liability. So financial liability, current and non-current, you have to disclose it very clearly. So that is with respect to para number 58. And last but not the least, I want to share with you one more, which is para number 34, which is actually, I will say, very unique, very unique. There are many unique paras I want to share, but because of the constraint of time, I'll try to actually restrict with one or two. Bargain purchase, very interesting, guys. Please look at that. This is one para. I will say there are two places where IFRS 3 and Ind AS 103, they differ. What is that? Number one is your bargain purchase. I repeat, number one is your bargain purchase. So, what is that difference? In IFRS 3, bargain purchase means your 80 is your net assets, fair value, and what you pay is 50. So 50 crores is what you pay for an asset worth 80 crores. So what is the difference? The difference is actually bargain purchase. And in IFRS 3, they recommend that, as per Appendix 1, they say, IFRS 3 says bargain purchase arising on business combination to be recognized in P&L account. So that the profit I have to recognize immediately as a gain in my P&L account in that year itself. But Ind AS 103 is not that. So it says Ind AS 103, in rare circumstance, that is why they start with the word, an acquirer will make a bargain purchase, etc., etc. The gain, what I will do, I will actually accumulate it and treat that. Please look at the last paragraph. So if that excess remains after applying the requirement, the acquirer shall recognize recognize the resulting gain in other comprehensive income on the acquisition date and accumulate the same in equity as capital reserve. So this is one place where they differ from IFRS 3. And there is one more place where India's 103 differs from IFRS 3. That is, you don't have the scope for business combinations of entities under common control. For example, entities under common control means that there will be a super holding company which will be having investments in say 7 subsidiary companies, and subsidiary 4 will take over subsidiary 5. Subsidiary 4 will take over subsidiary 5. Then you don't have prescription for that particular takeover in IFRS 3. But I want to tell you guys, very interesting. In India's 103, they have inserted one para, and that para is called para 2B. They inserted one para, and that para is called para 2B. And through that 2B, they have mentioned that Appendix C deals with accounting for combination entity or business under common control. And there is a separate, I will say, you have 14 paras, which is prescription exclusively for business combination entity under common control. Maybe only Appendix C alone, it will take another 60 minutes for me to discuss about that. But nevertheless, I am sure I have, and maybe this is one more note I want to share it with you. In the same Ultratech Cement, Binani Cement also they have acquired through the NCLT order dated 14th November 2018 under the IBC. So under the IBC, and kindly go through this. Similarly, B is the reason. In para A itself, they have mentioned why it is a business combination. And please look at this. I want to make one small observation in this. Please look at the fair value assets and liabilities assumed on the acquisition date. It is your total assets is your total assets is how much? Your total assets is 6,890.76 crores. And what is your liability? 9,815.80. Wow. So liability is more than your assets. And goodwill recognizes 2,925.12. Now please look at this. The goodwill and deferred tax liability include restated impact of 1161.42 crores being deferred tax liability recognized as difference between fair value and book value of acquired liability. And as per India's 103, purchase consideration has been allocated on the basis of fair value, and goodwill represents potential through brownfield expansion. Please look at this. What is brownfield expansion? This is what I mentioned to you. Brownfield expansion means I will launch a new product. I launch a new product. To launch a new product or a new cement product, you need to buy land, approvals of cement company, construct, do this turnkey project. By the time the project takes over, it will take at least 1 year or 2 years. Now, that I am crashing it by acquisition. This is called brownfield expansion. So, the Binani Cement Limited is a very interesting concept where the Ultratech Cement, they went for a launch of a new product through this particular acquisition. So, acquisition related costs, all this stuff I have discussed, everything I have done. So, I am sure today I have been able to share with you a very, very interesting episode with respect to India's 103. And with this, I must thank organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my thoughts on business combination. And now I will hand over the floor to my session chairman, CA T. Tyagarajan, for his closing remarks and for his inputs on my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, GKR sir. Now I will request CM R. Tyagarajan sir to speak over that, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, GKR. It was a wonderful presentation, I think. Am I echoing?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, so I think GKR, you articulated the relevance, reliability, and comparability of India's 103 pretty well with a 3-letter acronym and a similar acronym called shortest, smallest, and cutest. I think you articulated both the acronyms very well. AS 103, as you rightly said, is very relevant in today's context. And the two topics that you spoke about, one on the merger of HLL was with GSK, and Binani and Ultratech was very pertinent. I would also like to add one point to the contingent consideration topic you spoke about. Typically, from an industry perspective, some of the payments that are contingent, for instance, when you hire an organization, when you take over an organization, you take over the employees as well, right? So the entire management team join the acquirer, and there is typically a bonus pool that's kept for the senior management folks to join the organization and work on the integration of both the cultural integration of the entities and take the business forward. So payment of this consideration is classified as remunerative because it is not contingent upon meeting any targets. Just that they join, they do the integration for 2-3 years and just move on in life. So that's one classic case where the share purchase agreement signs up on a bonus for the senior management folks of the acquiring company, but yet not contingent on any future event, barring just managing the integration, managing the cultural nuances, etc. Right. So the other critical point that you spoke about is in the current year, despite the COVID, we've seen a couple of large M&A deals that have happened, right, or currently happening. I would like to speak a couple of lines on those two topics. One is an Indus Tower and an Infratel Tower deal. So Indus and Infratel are two tower companies. They are basically in the telecom business, the business of providing the physical infrastructure to all the mobile operators, right? If you recall, India had 12 telecom companies before Reliance Jio launched in 2016, and because of the hyper competition in the telecom industry, today we are left with 3 private operators, which is Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone Idea, and one government operator, that is BSNL, right? So the Indus and Infratel deal that got announced very recently got the blessings of the regulator, which is DOT, in February 2020. And the long stop date got concluded just before the Supreme Court gave the verdict on the AGR issue. Some of you may be aware, there was a overhang with the telecom companies on adjusted gross revenue. It's basically a large liability that the telecom companies had to pay for some of their past dues. The government gave a 10-year period to pay the dues for somebody like Oda Idea, right? So the acquisition of Indus, the merger of Indus and Infratel, created one of the largest tower companies outside of China. So this is one of the biggest tower companies in the world right now, right? The rationale behind this merger is this: one, India is one of the hyper competitive telecom markets in the world, right? And as consumers, we pay one of the lowest tariffs both on voice as well as data. With the advent of Jio in 2016, the data rates have fallen to abysmally low levels, right? As consumers, we are enjoying, but as companies, it is kind of stressed out the balance sheets of two companies, specifically Airtel and Vodafone Idea, right? One of the rationale for the merger was Indus and Infratel had overlapping operations in some of these states, and it made perfect sense for them to synergize these operations, reduce the overheads, and build a solid business model for the future. Now they are ready for the 5G launch, which I think will happen in 2021, right? So that was one large deal that I wanted to briefly talk about, and perfectly fitted the overall scheme of things. The second deal that I want to talk about is something that's very synonymous to our Indian homes, the Reliance Retail and Future deal. As we all know, Future had two large brands. One is the lifestyle brand called Lifestyle Stores. It's a hypermarket in all the big cities. And second one is the Big Bazaar, which is the grocery shop. Lifestyle and Big Bazaar are very synonymous with Indian homes, just like how Boost and Malto and Viva and Horlicks were, right? And these two brands, along with the high margin that comes with the food and grocery business, made perfect sense for Reliance Retail to do the acquisition. Though Reliance Retail is 10 times bigger than in Future, it made perfect sense purely because it gives Reliance a complete hold on the offline business. At the same time, in parallel, the JioMart has managed to get about $20 billion of investment from guys like Google, Facebook, Great Lake Partners, KKRs, etc. So some of this will perfectly fit into the overall scheme where they control the complete Indian retail, both online and offline retail, right? So these two acquisitions that have happened in FY21, despite the COVID, reiterates the importance of companies to look for M&A as a perfect route to one synergize, to make products and services far more cost effective and build a solid business case despite the pandemic, right? So as closing remarks, that is something that I wanted to share. And more importantly, as fellow professionals, one of the things that we got to do is, I think GKR perfectly pointed out the kind of disclosures that was given as part of the Binani Ultratech acquisition, where they had classified the financial liability, the GSK lever deal, where they had clearly classified as current and non-current, which is nothing but the deferred earnout payouts for the management folks, right? So from a accounting perspective, we got to one, establish a clear understanding of the accounting applications, have a structured framework where we communicate clearly and keep sharing the message to the investors at large, right? As closing comments, one of the things that I want to share from an industry perspective is there's got to be an increased framework and cohesiveness between the industry and academics, right? With the dynamic changes that is happening in technology, systems, process, laws, etc., there is a very important and an urgent need for the industry and academics to work together, right? Inculcate a culture of one innovation. I mean, start from class 12 college, where students are given a significant amount of focus and inculcate a habit of working on accounting innovation, right? Accounting research is going to be the way forward, right? So as professional bodies, we got to keep reinventing ourselves so that we stay much ahead of the competition, and we invariably stand at the top of the arc in terms of managing the change. So that's from me, gentlemen. So GKR, many thanks for the opportunity, right? I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Institute for giving me an opportunity to speak, share my perspective from the industry standpoint, and I'm happy to have answer any questions that may come.
Sir, kindly unmute your microphone, sir.
GKR, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Tyagarajan. You drive the point very nicely by giving the latest takeovers that's been happening, and especially the telecom takeovers. I'm sure it's the buzzword now, and also the Reliance takeover. Everything you have discussed. So maybe we'll hear from Mr. Pradeep ji. Any queries are there from the viewers? One or two we'll take, and maybe a difficult question I'll give it to Mr. Tyagarajan. So question I will handle.
Sir, there is only single question has came from Mr. Bhaskar M. That he is asking that can acquisition cost be capitalized in case of purchase of assets? That is the question.
No, actually no. The prescription is very clear. Para 53 is very, very clear. Acquisition cost cannot be capitalized. As per India's 103, Para 53 is very clear. Except that, for example, they have given a list. What are those? General administration, valuation, professional charges. So all those due diligence expenses. So all these cannot be capitalized. Other than that, if it is anything is there, I don't think. And they have given one exception. Anything related to financial instruments. For example, you are issuing financial instruments as a consideration. The cost related to that will form part of it. So. And even in India's 109, they made it very clear. Any cost, you will actually factor it, what you call it as the effective rate of interest for discounting. So thereby you discount it and arrive at the present value, and that only you are going to issue. So therefore it will be already factored. So therefore, plain answer for that question, acquisition cost cannot be capitalized.
Very nice, sir. Now there is no further questions, so I would like to extend my thanks to the speaker as well as our chief guest. And it is my pleasure to have opportunity to extend my sincere thanks.
Sir, one thing. Actually, his question is, can acquisition cost be capitalized in case of purchase of assets, he says, not business
Yes,
acquisition.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
purchase
sir.
of assets, we can capitalize because the prescription is not in 103. The prescription is in 16. So what
Okay,
do you
sir.
call it as? India is 11. India is 16. So property, plant, and equipment. So his question is, I've not read the second part of the question. So
Okay.
acquisition cost with respect to business combination cannot be capitalized, but acquisition cost with respect to purchase of asset can be capitalized. Good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, GKR, sir. And there is no further questions, so we'd like to conclude this program. And I would like to, it is my pleasure to have opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to both of you. And I, on behalf of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and the entire fraternity of the Institute, first of all, extend my most sincere thanks to Almighty God for making today's event successful. With His blessings and grace only, we are able to make this event successful. And now I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our chief guest, CMA R. Tyagarajan, sir. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and joining with us. And it is our pleasure that you have joined us and shared your deliberation with the GKR, sir. And I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our eminent speaker, Dr. Gopala Krishna Raju, sir. He is known to us and our participants very well. GKR, sir, indeed, it was a truly excellent program. You have explained very nicely with relevant answers. I hope all the participants will be benefited with the knowledge you shared on Ind AS 103 business combinations. Thank you, sir, for accepting our request and for being with us. And we hope that you will be coming with us on coming Sundays and share your thoughts on the different Indian accounting standards. Thank you, sir. And I would like to gracefully thank to our Honorable President, CMA Bishruk Basu, sir. I am also sincerely thankful to our Honorable Vice President, CMA P. Raju Iyer, sir. I'm thankful to CM Ashish P. Thate, sir, Council Member and Chairman Corporate Law Committee. I'm very much thankful to Padmanabhan sir, H. Padmanabhan sir, Council Member and Chairman CAT Committee. I'm thankful to our office colleagues, our IT team, IT HOD Ashish Tiwari sir, for giving us IT support throughout the program. Last but not the least, I am thankful to all the participants who are available with us throughout the program and hope that definitely our participants have gained knowledge throughout the program and they are able to use this knowledge in their work profiles, sir. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And now after playing the Institute theme song, we are going to conclude this event. Thank you, sir.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय
मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति